Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This is Algebra 2, Unit 1, Lesson 3. Today we're going to be learning quadratics, which is our third out of the four main functions that we're going to learn in Unit 1 so far. So we're going to be learning quadratic functions, which is the third out of ones we already learned, a linear and exponential. So let's dive into that. So I'm going to just type this down really quick. You can, if you're taking notes or not, you can just remember this. This is really important, and it's the definition of a quadratic function. It is an infinite parabola, which is a U shape or rainbow shape inside of a graph with a minimum or maximum, which is also known as the vertex, depending on if A is negative or positive. So if A is negative, that means it's an N shape and it goes downwards, and if it's positive, that means it goes up. And also another term that you need to know is polynomial, which is equation with more than two sets. So like 1 plus 3 plus 4, that's a polynomial. But really the solution is just one, which is also known as a monomial, one number. And a binomial is 2. So polynomial is more than 2, monomial is 1, and binomial is 2. So these are like the main things that you need to know before we go into this lesson. Alright, let's get started into the quadratic equations. So I'm not going to yet give any examples. I'm just going to give the letters and what they mean. So these are going to look annoying. Don't get too overwhelmed from them. And alright, so the first one is standard form, which really also gives you the y-intercept, and unlike linear functions where it's similar to and good for word problems, I mean this one's also good for word problems, but this one also helps us get the y-intercept, and we also need if we want to factor. So this is, and it's also the most common kind of form. So standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So that is standard form. C is the y-intercept. That's like the main thing that you need to know about standard form. The next one is factored form. So factored form is key when it comes to solving. I'll explain that in a minute. Factor form is y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. So what this means is that if we have x minus p equals 0, we can use that to find the solutions of it, which is the x-intercepts. A quadratic function can either have 1, 2, or 0 solutions. We could do the same with x minus q equals 0. The third form, which is really strange, is vertex form. And I'll give an example of how this works in a minute. So vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So h is the x value, the vertex. K is the y value, the vertex. You'll learn more about a, h, and k later on in Unit 2 once we get to transformations of functions. But right now we're just going to stick with the simple stuff. So h, the reason why it's minus is because how far it is from 0. So if the vertex, let's say it was 5, 8, in A equaled 1. So y would equal parentheses x minus 5 squared plus 8. So 8 goes by plus or minus if it's negative. But if the x, aka the h for the vertex form, is positive, that means it's going to be displayed as negative. So if you see this as x minus 5, don't get deceived and say like, oh, the vertex is negative 5, 8. That's incorrect. The vertex would be 5 to 8. And if the vertex was negative 5, 8, it would be plus 5 because negative times negative equals a positive. So if you see y equals x plus 5 squared plus 8, then that means the x would be a negative. So these are the three main forms. These are the three main forms that you need to know. You should recognize these. You most likely learned these in Algebra 1, but they're super duper important. And you're going to need to know these, and you're going to have to fully understand this, especially when we get later on into the advanced quadratics unit in Unit 3. The first thing we're going to be doing is that we're going to be learning something called FOIL. And when you look at FOIL, don't think about aluminum foil. FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, and last. And what this helps you do is turn a function that's in factored form into standard form. There's also a way you can turn standard form and factored form. We'll get there in a minute. I'll give an example of how we can do this. So say, for example, our equation was x plus 3 times x minus 5. So in order to turn this into standard form, we're going to have to follow the rules of FOIL. So first start with f first. So we go with the first two binomials in each. So x and x. X times x is x squared. The second one we go is outer. So we go by the two outer ones in binomial. So we go by this x and this 5. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. And then we go by the next one, which is inner. So we go by the two inner ones inside of the two binomials, which is 3 and x. 3 times x equals 3x, so we will do plus 3x. And then we go to last, which is the last ones in each binomials, 3 and 5. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. So we have x squared minus 5x plus 3x plus 15. You have to simplify because these are common factors. So, yeah, similar. So you do 5. Now, negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. So, negative 2x minus 15. So, that is how you turn binomial that you see in factored form into standard form. As you can see, it also follows the order of standard form, which is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. As you can see, that matches it with x squared because this is really a 1. Ax squared plus bx 2x plus c negative 15. The next important thing that you need to know about quadratics, and this is super duper important, this is turning an equation from standard form into factored form. What you do is called factoring. I'll write that down. And the reason why it's called factoring is because you're using the greatest common factor. So how I'm going to demonstrate this, there's two ways of factoring. There's one which is more time consuming, but a higher chance of getting a right answer and less frustrating to me. And the second one you can get through a lot quicker, but it requires a lot more thinking. So the first one is called splitting the middle. So we're going to take this equation right here, x squared plus 7x plus 10. So we need to turn this from standard form, because currently in standard form with ax squared plus bx plus c, into factor form, which is x minus h times x minus p times x minus q. So what we're going to do is that we're going to draw a big X. and we're going to take the b value, which right here is 7. So we're going to write 7 on the bottom. We're going to take the c value right here, 10, put that on the top. Now what we have to do is that we need to find two different numbers, two different common factors that can add into 7 and multiply into 10, which would be 2 and 5, because 2 plus 5 equals 7, and 5 times 2 equals 10. So what we have to do now is we have to split the equation in half. So we have x squared, we have to take this out, which would be 2x. So x squared plus 2x, then we have to take this one out, 5x plus 5x, and then take that one, plus 10. And now we go down by the middle and split this equation in half. And now we need to find each common factor for each. So x squared plus 2x, the common factor is 1x, which can also be x, which will give us x times x plus 2. Now let's go on to the next one. The common factor here is 5. So we're going to divide by 5. So we have 5 times x plus 2. So if you want to know if you're correct or not, these two extra ones that you get out of here would have to be the same. If they're not, then that means you're incorrect. So the finishing equation, we have to put these two together. So x plus 5, and then we take this last one, x plus 2. Close the brackets. Alright, so the second way that you could factor an equation is a lot more stressful, and you have to put a lot more thinking into it. But once you get the hang of it, you can solve it so much faster than the first way I taught you. So we have our same equation from before, x squared plus 7x plus 10. So what you do is that first thing you do is set up your brackets. So let's set up our brackets, and then we just try to guess. So we take two numbers from here, number from here, should be x. Kind of have to use common sense and logic. It's called guessing and checking. So you have this, and now we need to find factors that can go into 10 also. So let's try 5. Let's try 10 and 1. So now we have to guess and check by foiling. So we go these two, which is x squared, and then that one plus x, that one plus 10x, and that one plus 10. So this will give us x squared plus 11x plus 10. And now this is clearly not that answer, so we're going to start over. So we got our blank brackets again. So since this is pretty simple, it's a prime number 1, we're just going to put x in there again. Now let's try different factors that can go into it. And also, since this is plus, so if this one here, if the middle was minus and it was plus, it'll most likely have 1 plus and 1 minus. If it was minus and if it was plus or plus this and minus this, something like that, it's kind of weird. You kind of just have to use logic in this situation. But it's called guessing and checking. It's taking an educated guess by looking at the common factors. So the common factor of this could be 2 and 5. Now let's check that using FOIL. So x times x, x squared, x times 5, 5x, x times 2, 2x, 2 times 5, 10. Now simplify. So we kind of got the answer from that. That is how you guess and check, and this is really useful. And I suggest kind of practicing this a lot. You have to use logic. I suggest starting off with a equaling 1 when you practice this, and then later on try ones with a equaling more than 1. Usually I suggest splitting the middle when you get bigger numbers, because it's really difficult to do, because lots of bigger numbers have more factors. So I suggest using probably around like higher to 15, you should be using split the middle. Alright, So I got two practice problems right here. I got x plus 4 times x minus 4 and x squared minus x minus 20. So I'm going to let you guys pause the video if you want to. You have to factor this one and FOIL this one. So you could try doing that, and yeah, just pause the video. Alright, let's get into this one first. So we have to FOIL it. So we do these two first. X times x gives us x squared. X times negative 4, negative 4x. X, 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 4, negative 16. And so this will give us x squared minus 16. What's special about these kinds of functions that if we get something problem, let's try another one. X squared minus 36. No matter what, all these ones were do 25, where they're all like this. If they have a minus sign, as long as they have a minus, you do something just like that. So you could do probably 5x minus 6, 5x plus 6. If you want to check, you can use a pen and pencil or whatever you have to check that. That's how they work. They're kind of weird like that. But if you see 2, you should kind of look out for any perfect squares that you can use to help you along the way. Alright, let's move on to this next one that we have to factor. We have to do x squared minus x minus 20. So I'm going to do guess and check because these are kind of simple numbers. So yeah, minus. So we're probably dealing with a plus and minus situation. And I'm going to go 10 and 2. And x plus 2, x minus 10. Now let's FOIL that and check our answer. So we have x squared minus 10x plus 2x minus 20. So this obviously doesn't work. So let's try a different one. Alright. So obviously we have to go for that plus and minus pattern. So let's try a different one and go to 20. Let's try x plus 4, x minus 5. So we have to FOIL it. X squared minus 5x plus 4x minus 20. Now let's simplify that. X squared minus x minus 20. So we factored that correctly. So that is the answer. Alright, this next part is really annoying. And why I say annoying, I mean it's super duper annoying. And I just want to go over this really quick so I don't have to go back to this when I teach quadratics later. So I'm not going to teach the other methods yet. I'm just going to teach one of them, which works every time, but it's very time consuming, and it's the quadratic formula. So when you use this formula, you get like the automatic answer, both x's to them. So the equation is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, that's all in the square root, divided by 2a. So this is the quadratic formula. It's really complicated, but I'll bear you guys through this. It's kind of more in case of emergency, where if you don't have any other kinds of answers, like you can't factor, can't complete the square root, you can't do any of that, quadratic formula is the way to go. Now, let's try to use an example on this. So we're going to do x squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 0. It always has to equal 0 in order to do it. So, obviously, you can factor this, but for the sake of the lesson, I'm just going to show how to use it during using quadratic formula. So let's do x. So negative b, negative 6 times negative 1 is 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 36, minus minus 4, which is negative 32, 4ac divided by 2. Now we just have to simplify from there. So we have x equals 6 plus or minus square root of 4 over 2. That will just end up giving us 2. So we have x equals 6 plus 2 divided by 4. And now since we have plus or minus, we're going to put this into 2. So x equals, let me use a different color. X equals 6 plus 2 over 4, which will give us 8. Because 6 plus 2 is 8 divided by 4 is 2. So x equals 2. The second one we'll do is x equals 6 minus 2 divided by 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So x equals 2 and x equals 1. I just want to bring that up there because that is very helpful when it comes to solving quadratics. So yeah, that is kind of just, I just want to like touch base over quadratics, exponentials, and linear functions. The next function we'll go into is piecewise. That is that will be new for a lot of people. A lot of people may not learn about that. But before we go into that, we're going to learn rate of change in domain and range. So stay tuned for those two ones. I'll post algebra to lesson 4 soon.